You're leading a church, but quietly drowning in debt, preaching about generosity while panicking about bills, carrying the weight of a calling and the weight of your student loans. You're not alone. In this episode, we're breaking the silence around the unspoken financial struggles pastors face. Because financial stress doesn't just affect your wallet, it shapes your message, your confidence, and your church's culture. Let's talk about how to move from quiet defeat to freedom and integrity in every area of leadership.
Hello everyone, Jim Sheppard with the current CEO of GENERIS, Frank Bealer. That
And
would
I'm
be
with
a
the
topic from several.
Former CEO
Former
of GENERIS.
CEO of GENERIS.
More importantly known as the chairman.
That means I
Sounds
get a
very
chair in the
sophisticated.
room is
Yeah.
what I figured out so
Yeah.
far.
You're the man
Well,
with the chair.
well,
That's what we got to work with.
we did an episode, several episodes ago, about transition. In fact, there's two of them because it ended up being a long conversation. This has been a great transition for us.
Yeah.
We know that's not the majority report out there, and we wanted people to see what it could look like instead of what they seem to think it looks like all the time.
Yeah.
So hopefully they understand that we're still having a great time.
Yeah,
together,
we
right?
are having a great time. We sure make each other laugh. I don't know. We are having fun. I can tell you that for sure.
I don't
Hopefully
know if
it's
anybody's
fruitful.
getting value out of these conversations, but we have fun doing what we
Hopefully
do.
it's fruitful.
Right, and we are here in Orlando at the Creator House, and just loving coming down here and getting away from our office and all the distractions, and we drop a few episodes, and then we come back here and record a few more and drop those, so it's a fun time for us.
Sheesh.
Our episode today is going to walk down a fairly narrow path, but it's going to cover some ground that you and I have seen all too frequently.
Yes.
My guess is in our audience, they've seen it as well. Maybe not everybody, but some of them have. And you and I, when we were talking through topics, just felt like we needed to talk about this because we can't find anybody else having this conversation. And the topic is this: a pastor whose life is a financial mess, specifically debt. How does he or she stand up and preach with authority on generosity and giving while that's their reality at home?
I love that we're diving into this topic. When I saw it as an idea you had shared, I was like, oh gosh, this one will possibly step on some toes, could ruffle a few feathers, as we're okay doing. But then at the same time, to your point, nobody's addressing it. Nobody's trying to help out or resolve this or speak into it. And I know you've had a tremendous amount of experience of working with pastors and leaders in all different kinds of life circumstances. And the reality is what's going on in their personal life impacts the way they preach, the way they teach, the topics that they tend to avoid, and the areas they tend to lean in on. We see that time and time again. I'll use an easy one, physical fitness. When somebody gets really passionate about physical fitness, it affects their sermons. You see that they'll talk about it. Their illustrations change. Sometimes they're using props. They're using barbells all of a sudden as props.
I've seen that.
Or whatever
I've seen it. You're not seeing it.
So I'm not saying no shade to that whatsoever. I'm just saying as they get passionate about it and realize that they feel better, they're more confident, they're more comfortable, it affects what they teach in some areas of scripture that they may speak on that otherwise they've tried to avoid or tended to avoid. And so what does this look like in finances specifically for pastors? And so I think we should start by just ripping off the Band-Aid and go, okay, let's assume that you're talking, Jim, to somebody right now they're in that situation due to poor compensation in their life and ministry. That can be very difficult. Some unwise decisions they made, maybe in their childhood, maybe some debt that got pushed over to them from family members or circumstances. But they're in a very difficult spot. What do we do? What do you start with saying to them if they were to look at you and go, Jim, I hear you. I know we need to do this big campaign for the church. We're talking about sacrifice and what it looks like. I can't even get my mind around what this looks like for my family. How do you respond? Where do you start?
Yeah. So a lot of my passion around this, Frank, is from the number of conversations I've had over the 32 plus years I've been doing this with pastors behind closed doors when I'm talking to them about preaching with authority on giving, generosity, and stewardship, and trying to, where they've got I call a stutter in their step on this topic. Really, people who can preach the paint off in every other topic, but we get to this one and they're like, where's that? Why is that stutter in your step, man? You know, and we get behind closed doors, and it's a financial mess at their house. Yeah, it's not every one of them, but it's a lot of them. Yeah. So I've spent the time behind closed doors, talking to pastors about this issue, trying to set them free from the prison they feel like they're in, so they can preach with authority to everyone else, right? By the way, and I'm not trying to make an episode out of this, but the biggest category by far, it's not the only category, but the biggest category by far is debt from seminary. It just messes them up.
That's a great observation.
I mean, Frank, if I just had to say it, this is not GENERIS' view, this is Jim's view. The seminary system in America is by and large broken, because it requires so much of a financial obligation from somebody to get through there. I mean, we wonder about the dearth of, you're starting to hear it now. Do we have enough people coming through the seminaries to fill the churches and pastor the people who are coming in the generations after us? Mm-hmm. Do we have enough? And it starts with the fact that, a man or a woman going through seminary, it would not be unusual for them to walk away from seminary with $150,000 or more in school debt. Wow. Which is not a big deal if you're a dentist or a lawyer or someone with a high income potential. They can take that off the table quickly. But for a man or a woman who's coming out of seminary without that kind of debt, it's like a millstone around your neck. It weighs you down trying to do, and then you add family in on top of that. And even if they're adequately compensated, I mean, pastoring is not a high income profession, generally speaking. I know there are some who write books and have supplemental income, and they do very well, but we're not talking about those people. Yeah. There's a lot more people in the category you and I are talking about today. Yes. Ordinary, people who came through seminary and they walk out with a great degree from a highly credentialed seminary, but they hadn't paid the bill. Yeah. And so now they're walking out with that and trying to figure out, how do I pay that off and raise a family and do all the other things that I can do? Mm-hmm. And they look at their household situation and say, Jim, I just don't know that I can walk out there and preach about this with my house in that kind of condition. Yeah. I mean, what I say a lot of times is, well, Pastor, let's look at some other areas of your life where you're preaching on and see what kind of shape you're in there. 1 to 10, your financial life would be what? Oh, I don't know, a 2 or a 3. Well, why don't we just go to your prayer life? And they're just like, well, that's not a whole lot better. Wait, you're leading a church and your prayer life's not a whole lot better than your financial life, and your financial life's a mess. So what would your prayer life be? Oh, I don't know, 3 or 4. Yeah. All right, so, but have you preached on prayer? Oh, I do it all the time. Well, Pastor, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Yeah. To have the authority to go out there and speak. And can I say this to you? Your lesson, your struggle might be more real for more people in your church than the story if you were really successful and you were crushing it in that area.
If you're willing to be transparent.
If you're willing to be transparent. Yeah. If you're willing to be vulnerable and transparent. Now, by the way, I'm not talking about going out and making your personal financial statement a part of the church website. That's not what we're talking about. There's nice to know and need to know. The need to know stuff is, I've got a struggle. The nice to know stuff is, here's the details of it. They don't need to know that. Yeah. You probably should have somebody in your life who's helping you through that, but that's not your congregation. That's your CPA or your financial planner or your wife or whoever it is, or maybe some combination of all of those. So you're not talking about that, but you're saying, hey, I've got a struggle. For many of you, you walked away from school with debt. So did I. Yeah. And that was a problem then. It's become more of a problem now that I have a family of 4 and have to weigh that and what that demands on me. And I have to be a person who sets the standard for giving in this church. Yeah. And to this point, I've not done a great job of that. And I want to repent and tell you about that today. Yeah. But we're going to go on a new pathway because I'm going to create some new space for me. And maybe that creates a pathway for you. How helpful could that be? Yeah. Right? Shame and guilt can hold you back only as much as you're willing to allow it to hold you back. You don't have to let that get in the way. You can, but you don't have to let that get in your way. And I think we all experience that in various areas of our lives. And certainly, in our time before the Lord, we want to be repenting and, making things right and forgive me, Lord, and I want to be set free, and I want the power of your Spirit to take me in a new direction. I want to put on the full armor and protection of you and you alone to take on the battles that come this day, whether they be financial or other things, or the guilt and shame that comes to me because I haven't mastered this. Right, and we've got to get past those things.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is, God might be able to use your insufficiency and your weakness more than your success in a particular area of your life.
That is so powerful, and I think it can be freeing for people in the congregation, especially if the pastor feels like they're doing the best they can, they're being responsible, they're making progress where they can. I will say this. As a pastor, it gets a little complicated, Jim, to be transparent about financial struggles, but then knowing you're going to run into somebody at Starbucks and wondering, are they going to have a question because I just spent $6 on a latte and I was being transparent about that, but they don't know I'm meeting with so-and-so, or this is my downtime and I've cut 15 other things out of my life. I'm being responsible.
Yeah.
But there is this little challenge in that if you are transparent about an area you need to improve, as a pastor in the pulpit, it feels like the expectation is often that you have to go to the extreme to solve that. Yeah. And then next time they see my wife shopping at Target and with one of my kids and is like, oh, I'm going to grab this toy for my kid, that somebody may be like, why are you spending money on that? I thought you said that you're trying to navigate getting out of school debt or whatever. There's this microscope that's there. So that would be my response to you. Go, I hear you. I'm working on it. In fact, we've decided for the next 3 years, we're not doing a vacation that cost us money. We're going to go borrow somebody's house, or we're going to go to the grandparents' house or whatever. And we're going to take all that money to pay down and get us some relief. And so once again, that's not public. Our plan isn't public, but then they could be judged for a Starbucks. So I'm just saying, how do you say to that pastor, hey, I hear you, be transparent, be vulnerable, but then also know that that's going to come with some arrows?
Yeah. I think courage requires that you go ahead and steel yourself for the things that are going to come from the second guessers and the first and second row critics. It's always going to be there. It's almost a pharisaical mindset, although I wouldn't say everybody who has that is, but it's they may not understand. But that's a part of having courage to bring this out front, is that you know that there's going to be another side to it that might be a little bit troubling for you, right? That people are going to question your every move. They wouldn't hold themselves to that standard, but they'll hold you to that standard.
And I will say this. You said, and people will judge your every move. We need to qualify that. Some people, a handful of vocal people, will question your every move. Yeah. Most people, they're dealing with their own stuff. They're not going to project that on you. So it's not as big. It's not like the congregation is going to revolt or be offended or have opinions about everything. There will be a handful. So you've got to, with any area of your life, recognize that that's a tension to manage and have enough courage to step in on that, to first of all be transparent so that people can learn from it and what you're navigating. Because what we're not saying is seminary is bad, college is bad. We're saying, hey, there could have been some decisions in your younger years that are impacting your life now, or you could have racked up a bunch of medical debt or something like that. Still puts you in a difficult spot when you're going, it's taking everything I can to tithe to this congregation or tithe to this church. If that's what you approach, a 10% gift, it's taking everything I can, and it's a stretch to make that happen and still pay all my bills. The idea of stretching beyond that's difficult. Processing that out loud, and how maybe that's the conversation. It's going, hey, we had to start somewhere, and we knew that this matters to us, so we had to make it a priority to get back to tithing. And so let me tell you our journey. Here's the things we cut out. Here's what we did. To your point, that is so valuable to do.
So valuable. So in preparation for this episode, Frank, I wrote down, what are some of the things that I would say to a leader as they're navigating this struggle. And I wrote a few things down.
Okay.
I wrote some things in my notes. I know this surprises you that I actually did prepare. I do prepare for these episodes. It just
So
doesn't
we're
look,
making a note.
it doesn't
Remember
look
that
like-
one time that Jim came to a meeting prepared. Mark this day down in history.
I know it doesn't look like I'm prepared, but I am more prepared than it appears.
Absolutely. You're
Sometimes
actually
there are
very
just
prepared.
limitations. We
No,
can only
you're
get so
thorough.
far, right? Remember, there's an upside in all this.
That's right.
I think for me, Frank, I think to start, I want to affirm the pastor's heart and honesty.
Oh, that's
I
good.
want to give you credit for that.
Yep.
I want to start by giving you some credit for things that are positive about this experience, right? You know, your desire to disciple your congregation in generosity and starting with your own struggle, man, that's a big deal. You know, and recognizing that there might be a financial disconnect with your spiritual desire to equip your people, and just make that a part of the story.
Yeah.
Man, that's big. Not everybody would have the courage to do this. And oh, by the way, the courage to do this is going to invite some unwelcome scrutiny at a very detailed level.
Yeah.
At a very detailed level. By the way, when we were doing transition at my church 4.5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, our founding pastor's wife had the opportunity to say some things to our congregation. She only had 2 things she wanted to say. And the first one was, thank you for loving our family so well and creating an atmosphere where our kids could actually grow up as normal as possible,
Yeah.
despite being pastors' kids. So in other words, we know that there's a lot of scrutiny on pastors' kids, sometimes an unhealthy scrutiny, and you haven't done that. You've allowed our 4 kids to grow up fairly normal.
That's really
and,
cool.
And she wanted us to hear that at
Yeah.
the end. She said, some of you are a lot closer in than that. I'm not going to start by naming names because I'd leave some out. But just know that, you know, as a pastor, you're inviting unwelcome scrutiny just by accepting the call. And then when you put something like this on the table, the scrutiny is going to get a little bit tighter. And you got to be okay with that before you do it. Because they're going to ask the question, wait, you were at Starbucks. I feel like if you'd stop going to Starbucks, you could make a little bit more progress on paying down your student debt.
Yeah.
Right? I think you have to, that's number one. Number 2, you have to remind that pastor that growth is a part of leadership. Growth is a part of leadership.
That's good.
Right? You have to be willing to grow. You can't just plateau yourself as a leader. And you're acknowledging this is an area of growth for me. And if I'm going to lead you, I need to grow in this area and make that a part of the narrative of getting better,
Jim, I'd love to chime in there and just make an observation. When it comes to our finances, when it comes to generosity, I will give a minor caveat. Virtually everyone, I want to say everyone, but I want to say virtually everyone grows in the area of generosity throughout their life.
I think so.
Like
I
it's
do.
it's
Nancy and I
something
still
where
are.
everyone is on this journey and path to wherever they're from to whatever they want to get to, and unlocking generosity in different ways in their life. And so to come before your congregation and say, hey, this is an area where I really want to grow. We're making plans to be intentional in this area. I would think that most people will be one of 2 categories. They're like, yeah, that's me, or, oh, that's not even a priority that we've thought about. That's something that I didn't even attach to my faith. I need to be stretched in that area. Mm-hmm. Tell me more. Mm-hmm. And so I either need to grow in that area and I'm aware of it, or I'm not aware of it. But for a pastor to go, hey, this is an area where, man, we've just made some commitments that we want to improve in this area in our family.
Yep.
And we're making it a priority and we're talking about it more. Mm-hmm. And that may mean making some changes in some seasons. I talked to a pastor just a few weeks ago. They recently changed their giving. They no longer do digital giving as a pastor. Now, we don't normally recommend this. Like, we're like, oh, just do your thing, make sure you don't forget, whatever, and make it easy. He wants to go through the process for a season with his kids who have never seen him give.
Ooh.
His kids have never, like when the offering plate's gone by at their church, he has always passed it on. Or when he moved from the second row as an executive pastor to the front row as a senior pastor, now they don't even pass it down his row.
Don't even get it to him.
And so he doesn't even get a chance to do it. And so his kids have never observed him giving. And so they've now got to the point with their kids where it's like, hey, I think we need to talk about this. I don't know that they even know we do this online. And so for them, it was like, if we're going to instill something in our kids, I feel like we need to make this a little more tangible in this season, the age of their kids. I love that practice.
Love that.
Once again, that's just for them. It's not for everybody.
Not for everybody.
I love that they're being intentional about going, we're not sowing this in our kids, and it's become so familiar that we're not even praying about this anymore. It's just kind of going through the motions. And so they're like, we need a reset as a family. And so they switch it to a very tangible way so they can engage with that moment and that aspect of worship in their congregation every Sunday morning. I think that's really cool because what that shows is intentionality. It's not that dollar amount. He could do that online just as easy.
It's easy.
But there was something about engaging that way and leading his family that way and just acknowledging that, because he realized that, once again, as long as he's been pastoring, he's been giving online. So it's just been it's been something his kids have never seen him do anything other than pass the plate without engaging with it.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, that's probably not great. So I love that intentionality.
Yeah, growth is a part of leadership. And when I think about that, I think about what Paul said in Philippians 3:13 and 14. He said, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do. What is that one thing? Forgetting what is behind. Forgetting what is behind and reaching forward to what is ahead. Right? And I think that's instructive for the pastor who's dealing with this. You could actually wallow in the failure, but you can also do what Paul said. This one thing I do. One thing leaving behind, right? And so I think that's a really big piece in sort of thinking through the idea of reminding them that growth is a part of leadership. I wrote this down as the next step. And I think this is a really important step. Invite the pastor to begin a journey of financial health. Pastor, we have a problem here. We can't just waltz past this and act like it's not. I want you to grow. I want you to be vulnerable. I want you to be transparent, but I want you to solve the problem. And what you've been doing to this point hasn't solved the problem. So we have to try something new.
Yeah.
And so we've got to get you into, with a trusted Christian financial counselor or a budgeting course, or maybe even somebody in your congregation that you'd be willing to trust to walk you through this. If you don't have another solution, I would strongly recommend that you call Dave Ramsey, tell him you're a pastor with financial problems. They actually have people, at last I knew, I'm assuming they still do, they have a department over there of people who deal with pastors, and they'll help you. They'll even provide a special version of Financial Peace University just for you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They have a department there. As far as I know, they haven't taken it down.
That's really
They
cool.
had it for years and years and years. But Financial Peace University is specifically designed to help you tactically walk through fixing your financial stuff, the baby steps, your debt snowball, all these other things, right? You go on a financial austerity crusade in your house. What he says, you're selling stuff off left and right, make the kids think they're next, right? It's not for everybody, but it is, in this situation, one of the best ways to get through it. So you've got to help them begin a journey of financial health. And then start, even if they're small, steps of generosity. Even though you feel hemmed in by your financial circumstances, there is something more you can do than what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I would think as you go through a budgeting course or some other things, you can begin to free up some resources to take even small steps of generosity. And as you're doing that, help your congregation. Hey, I wanted to share with you. Remember I shared with you a few weeks ago? We just had this thing come through this week. We had this refund on our insurance policy that came back in. It just came from out of nowhere. It was like $890. We weren't expecting that. We didn't even know it was out there. It came in almost, just kind of out of the blue. We've put that to our debt snowball. And let me tell you what happened as a result of that. Just little steps like that, right? And then I think the other thing is these are kind of tied together, is show them a framework of teaching from weakness. Yeah. Right? Not just from strength. It's not just the things that I'm doing well. It's moving from authority to authenticity. Yeah. Which is, there's a fine line sometimes. It's moving from here's what you should do to here's what I'm learning. Yeah. Right? Things like that. Or from an expert, I know about this, to, hey, I'm walking the journey with you. I'm a fellow pilgrim. That's so right. Good. And that's so helpful for a congregation to say, wow, if I'm struggling with this, then I'm in good company. My pastor's having a problem with this,
Yeah.
and he's walking me through it, showing me solutions.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many people you'll be speaking to when you sit there. They're like, ooh, man,
That's good.
wow. He's walking me through. And then the thing about this is to see the opportunity to model transformation in front of your church.
Yeah.
Just based on how they're seeing you walk through it,
Yeah.
right? And then lastly, by all means, cover this with grace.
Yes.
Not excuses,
Yep.
not saying it's something other than what it is, but cover it all with grace. That's what's be kind of my 7-point framework if I were trying to coach somebody through this, to get them
that.
from guilt and shame
Yes.
to a point of preaching with authority.
That is so good, Jim. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being willing to wade in on a awkward topic,
Awkward.
a taboo topic,
Yeah.
a challenging at best topic, right? So
That's why we're here.
Yeah, I love
to
that.
take on issues,
Yep.
to shake up the status quo, to find things. You and I love finding things that that nobody's talking about in church space,
Yeah.
and kind of raising it to an attention level. Like, hey, what if you dealt? I hope this is one of those today. And that
That's
if we
so
just
good.
reach a few pastors, maybe a lot,
Yep.
but a few who feel imprisoned by this thing, and you get freed by this, it's all worth it.
That's
it's all
so
worth
good.
it.
That's so good. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Next Sunday Podcast. We hope to see you again real soon.
Next Sunday, even. Financial integrity is a part of spiritual leadership. When pastors lead from a place of health, they can preach with boldness, cast vision without fear, and disciple others in true generosity.
Freedom in your finances leads to freedom in your message. Let's care for the shepherds so they can lead their flocks with confidence and joy.